Hi, I'm Kevin Eikenberry, and I'm happy to be here talking to you about organizational culture for the good folks at GroSum. So I've got 5 questions I'm going to answer right now, and so let's get started. The first one is, what does organizational culture mean to me? Well, organizational culture gets talked about a lot. It's one of those hot topics, I suppose, with good reason. It's super important. But I think because of all that talk, it gets overcomplicated. Here's what it means to me. Organizational culture is simply the way we do things around here. Nothing more or nothing less than the way we do things around here. And so what that means is there already is and always is an organizational culture. Which leads us to the next question, what are the major determinants of your organizational culture? Well, there's lots of things that would be included, but here are the things that come to my mind off the bat. Number 1 is environment. What does the environment say about the way we do things around here? What is if we're all in the same place, if some of us are remote, all of those things, the environment in which we work, where we work, the location, all those things would play a part in it. Next is expectations. What do leaders expect of team members? What do team members expect of each other? What is sort of the natural flow? What are the assumptions that have been made? How are things handled? Third, leadership beliefs. What are the beliefs that the leaders have about how to work with folks? What is the leadership style? All of this plays in, does it not, to how things are done around here. And lastly is legend. What does history say? If people come into the organization, what do they hear from others about what it's like here, or what it's been like here, or what's important here? And so the legend and the stories and the history are also determinants of organizational culture. The next question is, what is the role employees have in organizational culture? Well, since we're doing the work, we're all a part of it. So we all have a role to play. Some people like to think, well, organizational culture is in the realm of the leaders. I would say not so fast. All of us have a role to play because we're all doing the work every day. And so if the culture isn't where you'd like it to be as an employee, the first thing you can do is be the change. I think of Gandhi, who said, be the change you want to see in the world. Start changing yourself, changing the way you interact. Start changing how you want things done, not in a forceful or boastful way, but just in changing the way you do your work every day. And as you start to do that, it will start to change the culture around you, which leads to this idea that culture changes and can be different in an organization by location, by department, by work group. Next, what are the common problems associated with managing organizational culture? Well, the problems associated with it, number 1 is that people don't have a clear picture of what they want it to be. So if we don't really know what we want it to be, it's hard to manage it in some way. But I think the bigger ones are these. Number 1 is the problem associated with it is that managers and leaders just ignore it. They're not really thinking about it. It's on their radar, but they're not really thinking about it. They're assuming that whatever it is what it is. They're assuming that somehow it will get better if they just talk about it. And lastly, they believe it belongs to someone else. Now, I've already mentioned this when I talked about the employees, right? That employees say, well, this doesn't belong to me. This leaders need to fix this. Everyone wants to turn culture as being about somebody else. So if you're in the middle, you say, well, it's senior leaders or it's the shop floor. If you're an employee, you say it's them up there. And what I'm saying is that the biggest problem of all with managing culture is everybody thinks it's someone else's issue when it truly, truly belongs to everybody in the organization. And lastly, if you want to innovate company culture, if you want to change it, if you want your organizational culture to be different in the future, what would you do? Well, number 1, have a clear picture of what you really want it to be so you know where you want to go. Then decide you're going to do something about that. Next, get started. Do something. Don't just talk about it. Don't just listen to this or read these words. Have a plan. You've got to have a plan for how you want to go after it. Here's the next thing. You got to stay at it. Changing organizational culture, or truly organizational culture itself, is one of the biggest determinants of organizational success. Famously stated by a number of different people is that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And so if that's true, and I believe that it is, that this is an important thing for you to do. It's not just an initiative. If you want to innovate or change your company culture, be clear about what you want it to be, get started, have a plan, and then you got to stay with it, because this may be the most important initiative your organization ever takes on. And it isn't truly initiative, because it's got to always be a journey to create it and keep it.